You can call me Coach Ty or Coach Tasha. I'm the CEO and founder of Professionally Pause. And
She's
I
black.
created a platform for career coaching and workplace advice where you can connect with me and stop and have a pause on all things professionally. Whoa, how did I get there? All right, well, that was, I guess, a sneak peek of the of the presentation. I don't know what happened there, but in today's presentation, I'm going to coach you through answering one of the most simple but complex questions ever, which is, who are you? And it's so funny, as a career coach, I'll ask that question and I don't always get the answer that I'm hoping that the person on the other end would respond. So I decided to do a workshop that speaks to how you can effectively answer who you are professionally. So questions like, who are you? What's your value? What should someone know about you? What's in it for them is what we'll be answering today. And you'll often hear folks ask, that type of question in different ways. So today I'm going to give you tactical tips and strategies on how best to tell and convey your professional story and show how to answer the question, tell me about yourself. All right. So before we do, let me go ahead and tell you about myself. So again, I'm Tysha Tobert, and I'm a professional messaging expert. And what that really means is I just focus on specific things as it relates to presentation. So I call these my power Ps: professional storytelling, professional identity branding, positioning, and persuasion. So I specialize in helping my clients and audience with the presentation of themselves as the candidate for hire. I feel that we all as professionals have gifts, we have skill sets and attributes and characteristics and traits that we bring into the workplace. And I help my clients focus on presenting themselves in all of their professional glory so they can nab the job of their dreams and or to just better amplify and vibrate their footprints in their places of work. All right. Whoop. How did I get there? Why does this keep happening? Sorry, guys. My mouse is just moving faster than I would like. All right, so just a quick workshop overview. So this is one of my high demand coaching topics. It's all about presentation. So today I'm going to discuss how to present yourself with impact. And I'll introduce, coach, and guide you through what I see as the keys to presenting yourself in terms of telling your professional story. And what I mean is I'll drop gems on how to punctuate your resume, how to amplify your brand and digital representation of yourself, and also how to articulate your value, because these are the things that people want to hear. And so anything that's going to position you as the candidate for hire is what I'm going to help you with today. All right, so first up, let's get started. Professional articulation. So let's start off with one of the best ways to convey your story, and that's through your resume. Let me break this down for you. So your resume defines you professionally, and it brings clarity on your capabilities and should provide context on whether or not you would align to a job based on your skill set and whether or not you're a fit. But more often than not, resumes only speak to your responsibility and where you had them. So my proven method is to articulate your professional story through your mission, your skill set, your impact, and your yield as a professional. So I don't focus on your job, where you worked, or what you did. I focus on your mission, skill set, impact, and yield. So let's discuss each component and why it matters. So the professional story breakdown, as I just mentioned. So first, starting with your mission. So for clarity, this is not your objective. I know oftentimes you may want to list your objective on your resume, but it's assumed that your objective is to get a new job, right? So it's good branding to give yourself a title which sums up the makeup of your career, your professional label, and it should tie into your mission statement. So I'll talk about that a little more in the next section. But again, your resume will gauge and measure your fit for the role you're interviewing for. And your boss will be assessing what's in it for me. So you just really want to make that clear. So skill set. So my second tip is for your unique and identifying attributes as a professional, your skill set. So these are those actionable, those descriptive details that define your qualifications and help to tell your professional story. The skills listed on your resume should directly correlate with the requirements of the job that you're applying to. And what I often tell my clients is that list that very well defines you should be kind of the what's in it for them. If they're looking at it, that bullet pointed list that is very clear on what you're going to bring or what you're going to offer to a job. So that pretty much highlights your value. Let me admit that person. Okay. So the words you use to explain your professional story are what draws the picture of your ability to align to the role as well as the company. And it's not about using a thesaurus or packing your resume with all that jargon and the words, from a job description, but you really want to position yourself and describe your footprint as a professional and what you may offer. Okay. All right. Next up, impact. So this is I call it your professional proof of concept. And what I mean is, so proof of concept, it's a term that's used in engineering and consulting, and it's a demonstration of your client or to your client that your solution or whatever it is that you're selling works. So what I mean by your impact or your professional receipts is really what you're highlighting or punctuating on your resume that shows what you've produced and accomplished on the job or career-wise. So you really want to speak to what's the Tysha Tobert impact, the Claudette David impact, the Fumi impact on the job. And you do that by highlighting what you've produced, what you've accomplished for that. What was your stamp? What was your specific footprint? Because in general, how you're measured and evaluated on the job is really based off if you're below, above, or meeting expectations. So if there's anything that you can highlight in your resume that shows that you went above, or you created, or you designed, or you implemented, or you facilitated, or you produced something that shows your footprint, something that you can own, you definitely want to include it. That's how you show impact. All right, so your awards, any recognitions, anything that reflects your leadership, or anything that you can really demonstrate on the job that you can go above expectations. All right, so I hope that made sense to everyone. And then next, yield. So impact and yield are slightly different. And what I mean by yield is it's overlooked. It's overlooked, but I feel like this is one of the things that really differentiates you in an interview specifically. Your resume and your interview, they have to convey your impact on the job and your track record as a professional. So that's why interviews are loaded with behavioral type questions and why job listings always spell out what the candidate needs to be hired. So your resume has to show what you can do for them, and they want to know what are the results you produce while being employed with that particular employer. And I remember once I had a client push back saying, well, I don't really have a job that I can show quantifiable or measurable results. I'm not in sales. There's nothing that shows, that my job was completed. So what am I supposed to do? How do I show someone my yield? And my response to them was really then highlight how you exceeded expectations, not just met them. So again, your yield is going to be what you've produced for the employer, what you brought in value-wise to the employer, and all your professional receipts. So my point is this: go beyond what your responsibilities were on the job. You must speak to the successful outcomes that you've produced. All right, so just a couple of final thoughts on how to tell your professional story in a resume. One of the best ways to present your professional story is by telling them what you do and not where you work. Next is to speak to the successful outcomes you've produced as a professional. And last, draw the picture of your ability to align to the role in the company, because that's what they care about. So your story should spell all of that out. That's pretty much your story. You want to show them that what you're capable of in highlighting your professional mission, detailing your professional value and your skill set. That shows that you're fit and convey, what you've done impactfully on the job. What does it say? Oh, your resume must tell what you would do for an employer if hired. Yes. Sorry. All right, so moving on to the next section, professional labeling. I want to focus now on effective ways to label yourself professionally. So your brand should summarize your unique strengths and how you differ from others. It's a way to communicate your reputation and your value to an employer. All right, so your brand is your public or your digital expression of what you bring into a company. Like I said in the previous section, you want to highlight some very subtle ways to stamp your professional brand within your online presence. So the first up would be a catchy headline. Remember, you want to be able to attract people so you can articulate your professional story to them. So it's important to summarize yourself in a succinct but impactful way to amplify your brand. Well, next would be your signature. So don't forget about your signature in an email or even in any type of message or DM. You definitely want to kind of, so what I often use in my signature is anything that's relevant that I think will help to tell my story. So of course I have my website. Of course I have my mission, which is to empower, enable, professionals into workplace success. So you definitely want that one-liner, whether it's just what you offer, like Claudette, David, legislative affairs. You just want that quick title to who you are and what you may be able to offer in your signature. And then third, your bio or your about section on any type of social media platform. Someone should be able to understand who you are, what you offer, what you represent, or what you can provide just from those two little sentences or those 140 characters. And you want to make sure that you place them on your Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and whatever other social media platform. So again, you want to sum up your value and label yourself impactfully. All right, so LinkedIn, the ultimate professional brand. So time to tell your professional story on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, as many of you know at this point, is one of the most powerful professional platforms that currently exist. In the background. Everyone, if you could please mute yourself, I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much. So yeah, so it's one of the most powerful professional platforms that currently exists, and it's really set the standard for connecting, job searching, and keeping a focus on professionals and networking. So it's become, so I always say it's become the modern day digital background check. So make no mistake, it's a research tool and people will use it to find and measure you professionally. So the best thing you can do is just flesh out a nice story to help present yourself and bait and attract the right viewers to you. So a couple of tips that I feel would be helpful on branding yourself on LinkedIn. So first is the about section. Definitely, it's one of the easier sections to highlight. So make sure you have your pitch and you state your mission there. You know, that quick 4-sentence or so statement and declaration of your value. And it's something that whatever it is that you want to share in your about, you want to make that clear. That way you give someone something to chew on when they look at your profile. You also want to bullet out your skill sets, whatever that value is that you bring into a job, whatever you've been responsible for, you want to highlight just a few, maybe the top 5. Or what I also do in this section is if I'm applying to a job, and I tell my clients this as well, if you're applying to a job, that's where you can place some of those bullet points from the job description, just plug them right in the about section on your LinkedIn profile. Because it helps to really tell that story. So the tip is to spell out who you are, what you do, and what you can offer right in the about section. Next is the expertise section, and definitely don't skip that part on LinkedIn. Make sure you take some time to add the main skills you possess, because it's a great way to really kind of articulate what you're bringing to the table. And then also it's a good way to kind of notate more of the technical or the application specific or the task driven skill offerings that you may offer. So things like Salesforce, social media management, your ability to communicate effectively, like through public speaking or something technical like Azure Cloud or Adobe Creative Design Suite, you want to list that in your expertise. Groups and interests. So make sure you're taking advantage of this section as well, because it also helps to define and clarify who you are. So if LinkedIn is that professional background check tool, then highlighting your volunteer efforts or the causes that you appreciate, or referencing professional groups or associations that you are affiliated with, that's all going to help tell and speak to your story as a professional. And so lastly, endorsements. Make sure you get a few from your friends and your peers to endorse you, as well as get a few testimonials or recommendations if you can, because you literally can now send automated inbox messages to your contacts. And it's always good to have kind of that digital endorsement, or that digital, someone who can vouch for who you are professionally. Oh, yeah. So another point that I forgot to mention on this slide that I think helps to tell your story on LinkedIn specifically is, don't forget to use the pin feature. So on LinkedIn, when you're editing your profile, there's now a place where you can pin things to the top of your profile. So things like publications, any links, any certifications you may have. I've seen people pin their resumes and their cover letters. I know I personally, on my LinkedIn, I have my social media card that shows like how I can be contacted, on the internet. And I also pin my websites to the top of my LinkedIn profile. So coachtasha.com, professionallypause.com. So if you have a blog, or if there's anything that you feel relevant and you want someone to take a look at, pin it. All right. So moving into the next section, tips for messaging. So here's some quick tips for messaging, and you can use this for your introductory approach or how to convey your value. Remember, this is all about presenting the value of you, the professional. So you'll want to use this method when emailing recruiters or connecting with new professionals. First is your introduction. So introducing the value that you have. So introducing others to the goods or the gold or the offerings that you as a person and professional provide. You want to give them that understanding on basically why they should invest in you, or why they should connect to you or buy or engage with you. Next would be your pitch. So I like to use the term elevator pitch. I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with that term, and I can kind of give you a little breakdown on your elevator pitch, but it's that highly informative sum up, or it's really the about, or a quick bio, like that bio on who you are and what you offer, or the introduction to you. So you want to introduce the value, then you want to pitch your label. So whatever it is that you're offering, or whatever it is that you want to present to your audience, that's your pitch. And then finally, your offering. So you want to clarify your offering, the basically whatever it is that you want people to know that you're known for. And specifically, your offering should answer the question of what's in it for me, to pay attention to you. All right, so your professional product. So yeah, good. I put my example in here. So I just wanted to give you a quick example of, this is my LinkedIn headline. So this is a good sum up. It's got some sizzle to it, but I feel like it's clear and it shows who I am professionally. And then it also speaks to my value and offering. And so a quick pitch, or a quick elevator pitch, or kind of my introduction when I introduce myself to people. I'll say, hi, I'm Tysha Tobert. I'm the CEO and founder of Professionally Pause. I provide career coaching, professional empowerment, and tactical tips and strategies to empower, enable, and lead people professionally. See, so that was like, what, 3 or 4 sentences, but I say who I am, what I offer, and what I can do for you. All right, so you'll want to get to practicing for that. But for more help, I do have some free resources available right now. You can go to coachtasha.com/resources. I wrote this great article last month called Identify Like a Professional, that speaks to how to convey yourself in forms of value. And then also I have a 5-minute video training that I call elevator pitch like a professional. So how to present yourself with impact in 4 sentences or less. So you can download both of those through coachtysha.com. All right. So what did I say? Oh, everyone's got a skill, gift, and the goal that they bring to the table. You just need to learn how to tell your professional story. All right. So we're coming to a close, but here's an important coaching moment from me to you, because presenting yourself and your story effectively in an interview is just, it's the only way you're going to get the job, right? You can have this great fleshed out LinkedIn, your resume could be top notch and stellar, but you got to close the deal in an interview. So I want to just offer up some quick interviewing do's or don'ts as it relates to telling your professional story, and really how to drive the value of you home in an interview. All right. So first up, do. You do want to be a star. So this is one of my coaching techniques, the STAR method. I don't know who's familiar with it here, but it's something that you definitely want to get familiar with. This is the best, almost fail-proof way to respond to a behavioral interview. Any type of interview question, you can use the STAR method to respond. So just to quickly break it down. So it's your situation, or you're providing context and background to whatever situation or event, your task. So you're explaining the task that you had to complete, your action. Excuse me for a second. So your action is those steps that you take to handle that, whatever that situation is, and then the result, the impact of those actionable steps that you took, and maybe what you might have learned. All right. So be a star, set the scene, describe the purpose, explain what you did, and then share the outcome. So let me try to give you an example real quick of the STAR method in action. So recently, someone interviewed me and they asked me, well, how are you surviving as a coach during the pandemic? What changes did you have to make to continue to run your business? So I used STAR. So the situation that I had was outside was closed, because prior to March, I was a facilitator. I was partnered with career centers. I had more of a physical presence. I was booked for workshops and conferences and such. So the situation at hand was outside was closed, and I had to figure out how I was going to make money and how I was going to continue to run Professionally Paused, right? So the task at hand was I really had to create a online business model. I had to think through what I was going to do to continue to empower, enable, and lead people professionally, but digitally. So the action that I took was so I was able to digitize a lot of my workshop offerings. I started doing webinars for free like this. I registered myself on LinkedIn as a professional messaging expert through ProFinder, which I know a lot of people on the call currently use. And then the result was I was able to reach more. I was able to do more, actually. This is like the best business year ever. Well, one, because I'm a solution to a growing challenge, which is unemployment. But two, because everyone has an online presence, and I just made sure to use online to market myself. So that's how I became the star, right? That my situation, task, action, and result. And so that's basically what you want to do. You want to run through the STAR format to answer questions. So, and you've heard those questions before. Tell me about a time when you failed or succeeded, or you faced an obstacle, or you had a difficulty with your workmate or your boss or your client or whatever. But the tip is be the star of whatever story you need to tell. And remember, your story has to have a problem or a thing that you need to manage or overcome or solve. So that's the key to making yourself a champion in any story. So do be a star. That's the first interview tip. All right, so the next, now this is a don't. Don't fail to study the company. So this should be obvious, but for some reason it's not obvious to everyone when they're interviewing. You have to become a student to that role. You have to understand it inside and out and show how you align based on your skill, experience, and your fit to that said role. So people make this mistake, but don't let it be you. You need to understand how the company works, how your role will work, how the culture works before signing up. So the interview should be a place to confirm those things, and make sure you interview the interviewer as well. That's so important. And I'll share some questions on how you can ask, or what you can ask in the final do. The final do is ask questions. So find people you can talk to, whether it's someone you're connected with, or you want to find a blog or Glassdoor review, but just do your research online. You can use apps like Blind and a lot of like Career Builder. There's all these career tools now that give like inside scoops to working for certain companies. YouTube will sometimes do like a day in the life of some employer at some place. So you just want to make sure you're doing the research and you're becoming a student to that company, because they will ask you, so tell me what you know about the company. And you want to be able to speak to what you've learned, what you know about the role. And so if you have an inside scoop, use that inside scoop. You know, you want to take a peek at what's going on currently in the press or in the news as it relates to your potential new employer. And if there's any recent awards or wins or recognitions, you'll want to understand all of that. So don't fail to study the company. All right. And also, their story should help to shape the story that you want to tell the interviewer in the interview. All right, so next up is do understand the interviewer's objective. Please do your part by gently rehearsing responses and thinking through your story, and specifically how you want to tell every component of your job and your work history, because those are the chapters of your professional story pretty much in an interview. So the interviewer has a very important task, right? It's not about you, it's about the skills that the right candidate will have that will help them be successful, whether it's the hiring manager or the recruiter to find that source for the company or the company itself. You just want to remember that. Keep in the frame of mind that they want you because of your skill. So that's why you have to learn how to tell that story on the value that you bring and the skill that you would offer them, where everybody would win, right? They'll pay you, you'll be successful there, they'll leverage your skill for pay, all right? So you just want to make sure that they choose you. So you have to spell out that story and understand their objective, so you can paint that picture on why you're the choice, all right? Because interviews help them learn, them know, and connect or disconnect from candidates. And they'll be aligning and measuring your relevance to of your background to the role and the opportunity that they're presenting to you. And an interview will also gauge a candidate's confidence. So they'll be listening closely to see how confident you are, how honest you are, how transparent. And sometimes they're looking for performance issues, or they're almost looking to take you out of the running. So you want to make sure that the story that you tell directly aligns to showcasing that you are fit for the role. Use the interview as time to connect with them. So you want to set the tone, the atmosphere, and the appetite of the interviewer to be convinced that you're the one hired. So it's your job to help them decide that you're the choice. And you do that by punctuating your story as it relates to what they need to be successful, okay? All right, so next, don't employee bash. It's so easy to get pulled into kind of bad mouthing a company on an interview, but you just really want to walk a fine line when it comes to discussing your former employer and why you left or why you're looking to leave. All right. So an interview panel, it's just not the place to air out all your grievances. You really want to show diplomacy, and that's really the best posture to take when you're on an interview. Don't bash them, because you never know who knows one another, and some industries are smaller than others, and HR specifically, they move around a lot. Recruiters will be here, then they'll be there, then they'll be there. And then also when you start bashing, and this is actually, I know this has happened to someone that I was helping them get through how to tell their story on why they were fired from a job, because they started bashing in an interview, and that HR recruiter knew that company, they reached out to whoever their HR resource was there, and they found out that that person had been let go or had been fired, not that they were looking for a new opportunity. And that recruiter went back to them and said, hey, are you sure that you weren't fired or let go from the other one? So you just want to be careful. I'm just giving you an example of the detriments or the dangers of bashing a company. So don't bash your employer. My suggestion is this, here's the tip. Focus on why you're running towards the opportunity like the one that you're pursuing. Don't focus on why you're running away. All right, so if you're asked why you want to leave, you want to try to shift the discussion to why you're the perfect fit for the role you're interviewing for. Remember, always speak in terms of fit and value and why you would align to that role. So if they say, well, so why do you want to leave XYZ? Say, well, I really am, so excited about opportunity XYZ at your company. And it was just something that I really wanted to learn more about. Flip it, flip it. Don't ever tell the story of your last employer, or don't tell it in a negative way, I should say. Ooh. All right, so do ask questions. So do you have any questions for me? That's something that's usually asked at the end of an interview, and you better have some questions. Asking questions, it demonstrates and confirms your interest for the role. It shows the interviewer you're visualizing yourself in the role. It suggests that you want the role, and it also gives insight to the culture of the organization. Remember, you got to ask questions because there's always going to be a gap between the role and what you're responsible for, and then what was presented to you prior to entering. So the more questions you ask, the more you kind of shorten that gap, and you get a more of a reality sense of what the opportunity really is, right? You'll also get a sense of what type of people will thrive in that environment by asking questions, who may not, and what the manager is hinting at, how he or she might measure the team. So here's my top 3 questions that I always encourage my clients to ask in an interview. And these were the questions that I always asked myself on an interview. So the first one is, what will the first 30, 60, 90 days in the role look like? You want to make sure that you hear from them what the timeline or what the expectations are while you're onboarding and getting ramped up. It should paint a clear picture of what you'll need to learn or what you'll need to do to be successful. All right, so the second question is, that you can ask them is, can you name some of the attributes of your most successful team member and give an example of how they're aligning to their role? So you always want to hear about the champion of the company. That way, you can make sure to highlight whatever it is that champion is doing to your story as well. So if they like people who are punctual or go above and beyond, or people who do X, Y, and Z, you can always find a way to slip some of that information into your story. And then the third question is, how do you ensure the success of your team? So this question is usually very impactful. If you ask that question to a hiring manager, it's going to make them think, and then also you'll get a sense of the type of leader they are or what's most important to them. So ask that question. How do you ensure the success of your team? Right? Because they're hiring you based off of your skill set and your value to make them successful, but how are they going to make you successful? That's something that you really want to take note of as you're interviewing the interviewer. Also 2 other questions. Can you walk me through the day-to-day of the role? So just getting kind of that baseline understanding of what you might be responsible for in a day, or how you collaborate, with the team, or how you interact with the client, or just get them to talking about how the day works in that role. And then another question you can ask is, how did your team do last fiscal year? Hey, Caroline, how are we doing on time?
It is 1:39.
Okay, all right. So ladies and gents, we have reached the end. Thank you for tuning in to my web class today. Please remember my tips on how best to tell your professional story. I did want to pause and discuss a few things with you professionally. I feel like sometimes you just need some direct coaching. So I want to introduce you to a new offering of mine. So I'm introducing you to the Professional Story Coaching Bundle. So LinkedIn, message coaching, and interview coaching are three of the biggest asks right now within my clients. So I decided to package and put together 90 minutes of Coach Tysha coaching that can be broken down into those three categories at a fixed rate for $150. All right, so the coaching bundle pack, go get it, go order it now. I feel like while this training is good, still, if you don't know how to message or know how to flesh out your LinkedIn or know how to interview, sometimes you just need a coach that will guide you through that. So that's why I'm offering this bundle. But a couple of other online and digital offerings that I have available. I do have a course called Tips for the Professional. It's a 2-part training course. It focuses on how to look, act, and message like a professional. So it gives you good interviewing tips. And then also the second part is a good 90-day strategic plan for best aligning to your company's environment. I call that section the 90-day accelerator. I do have a guide to interviewing. So it's a 6-part guide. It offers tactical tips and strategies for interviewing success. It's very thorough. It's almost, I think it's about 20 pages long, but you're going to get a lot out of that guide. Next is the interview checklist. So it's just my $7 low cost but high value coaching tool. And it gives you specific resources on how to amplify your ability to be hired and to secure a new job. And then message like a professional. So I did a free webinar, when was it? October, I think it was October, on the keys to interviewing, but it was so good that people kept asking for it. So I went ahead and just made it into a webinar class or a web class that you could download and buy. So the keys to interviewing, message like a professional, is one of my newest class offerings. And oh, I forgot to add a slide about the holiday value bundle. So for the month of December, I am offering a fixed price. So the holiday value bundle is my resume modernizing services plus 30 minutes of coaching for $150. So there's some limitations on that one. So I only made it for 20 slots because that's all I could handle for the month of December in terms of taking on new clients. It's halfway done. So if you're interested in that, go to professionpause.com, get that, or message me after this, and we can talk about it or talk about your need. But I do have that fixed rate coaching right now where you can get your resume and your coaching together for $150. All right, so this is all my information on how to contact me or how to stay connected to me online. I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. You can email me at hi@coachtasha.com. And then professionallypause.com is my digital training. It's information on all my digital training and product offerings. And then coachtasha.com can be used to book me, as well as I have articles available and a bunch of free resources that you can download. I also have a Professionally Pause page, and now I have a Professionally Pause LinkedIn page. So let's stay connected. I love to share tips for free online. So thank you for thank you for joining today's webinar. I will just leave the floor open, the next 10 minutes open for answering any questions you may have. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions yet.
Okay.
But a bunch of thank yous. So
Great, you are so welcome. I hope this was helpful. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to, everyone, I'm going to make a professional story worksheet. So I'll do my best to sum up some of the information, because I may package this into, actually I may not, because there's so many technical difficulties in the beginning, but I'll figure out how to summarize this workshop if I don't offer the Zoom recording for free. I'll summarize it for you, and then I've built a worksheet that walks you through how to really chart and tell your professional story. that'll be included, I guess, in the thank you email. All right. All right, well, so I always say this to everyone that I come in contact with: stay encouraged and stay professional, and let's stay in touch.